Right on. See, you doubted me.
Me taking a little bit of extra time, so.
You doubted me. I know how to do it. No. Okay, student competitions. Best part about drones is competing with them. And student competitions, no matter what subject you're teaching, Rad Robotics, great example. If you have a competitive side, you know kids are competitive. We're all competitive by nature. So definitely student competitions. There's many competitions throughout the country, very localized, very regionalized that we've found through the years. Some as simple as building a drone kit and hovering it. That was my favorite, I think. They turned this into like a 2-day comp. I won't even mention, we just thought it was funny. But anyway, what we have is a lack of a national centered focused competition until this last year. Okay, so we're gonna talk about mainly the Rad Robotics aerial drone competition. This just came online last, I want to say December, because I went to the training in December for it, and we're talking December 19, pre-COVID. So I went to training, got trained by these guys, came back in January. We got, what, 13 teams together?
Something like that.
13 schools? Maybe it was 15. I know it's quite a few. Anyway, you can see the picture here. That's actually our Minnesota State Rad Championship from January 21st of this year.
We actually ran it alongside the VEX Robotics competition that was going on.
That's why it was there, because this was the state VEX championship, so we decided what better place to debut the Rad competition than at the state VEX, so we were rushed. Like I said, I went to the training in December, came back I think January 10th, gathered my coaches together, gave them their drones, gave them the books, told them, explained the game, sent them on their way, and roughly 2 weeks later, they had to show up with their teams and compete in the state championship. So it's kind of rushed. We were actually the first state championship in the country to be held for the Rad. Okay, so we kind of rushed ours so we could coincide with VEX.
And we had 2 teams that were going to Worlds at VEX because that's where they were going to have the Rad competition there for the Worlds. Then unfortunately COVID happened.
Right, COVID happened. It derailed the whole World Championships in Louisville, Kentucky. Like he said, our top 2 teams were invited to the World Championships, and yeah, we were all very disappointed in this because we were looking forward to that. I thought it was quite a successful launch for how fast it happened. And you can see FTW is their primary partner. The other people I want to talk about real quick is the REC. Some of you guys, anybody involved with VEX knows who these guys are. And I'm just going to quickly kind of show you their website. Okay, so these are retired, mostly robotics educators. Okay, and they form what we call a competition committee for VEX, for many other games in addition to VEX. And one of their games now is the Rad. And to me, the easiest way to navigate their site is at the bottom here. But if you go down here, you'll see that there is a spot for aerial drone competition. So you just click on that and it'll kind of go through all the Rad stuff. And like I said, this just literally came out in December, January timeframe, several months back. And you'll notice that their partner is For the Win Robotics. Okay. So obviously the Rad is geared towards the Parrot Mambo at this point. That's the only drone allowed in the competition. So in a sense, much like VEX, it's a controlled, I have to buy my stuff from this one supplier. Okay.
And I think in this case, a lot of that has to do with keeping specs the same, much like they do in VEX. You want similar competition. You don't want somebody to bring in a bigger aircraft and blow everybody away.
And just like anybody who's ever been in Little League, there's a reason, there's always been a Little League, right? But then there's always a reason people want to form Cal Ripken baseball, because they don't like something about Little League. VEX has the same issue. A lot of people don't like this controlled environment of what you have to have, who you have to buy it from. So they formed First Robotics, which tends to be a more corporate type sponsorship. So there's always a different spin-off. Rad is going to be no different. This year I'm going to show you another competition that's starting to be thought up through SkillsUSA. So there's immediately already somebody looking at doing something other than the Rad. Okay, because just human nature, a lot of us don't like to be pigeonholed into, hey, I can only go to this place to get my equipment or my drones. Kind of understandable. What I will say is I just went to a meeting about 3 weeks ago with the REC, and FTW over our upcoming competition season. The new game manual, oh, by the way, you'll notice on this site, you'll see the game manual if you want to go in and look at what we did last year. Last year, since it was the first year, they kept it very basic. They had 2 events. One was a visual line of sight where they raced head-to-head 3 laps, fastest time won. The other one was a package delivery. That little gripper claw, we used a US quarter as our package. And each team, or one team at a time, would fly from their home pad, go through half the course to the other side, and drop their quarter as close as they could to the target in the middle, and then they had to return through the other direction back to their starting point. Fastest team times won, basically. Very basic, it was all piloting skills. They incorporated spotters as the teamwork aspect, meaning, because if you saw the course from that picture, it was kind of hard to see if you were standing on this end trying to fly your drone through some of the obstacles on the other end. So they had spotters, one on each side, and that was part of this, is the communication, actually using marshalling signals and stuff. Some teams showed up with big giant bats and costumes, like Top Gun costumes and stuff. So it was kind of cool. And yeah, we had a lot of fun with it. This year, I went to the meeting about 3 weeks ago. This year they have a big event planned. They have a huge event sponsor that I'm not allowed to talk about. I was sworn to secrecy, but it's huge. The event's going to be called Downdraft. This year's game manual is going to be called Downdraft. I'll give you a clue. It's going to be autonomous. There's going to be some 3D printing pieces available. I don't think it's part of the game, but you know how we have the game field? They're not ever going to change the standard game field pieces. They'll always be able to use what you have from the original game field. But the pieces they're adding this year are going to be able to be 3D printed, from what I understand. Okay, I don't know a whole lot about it. They're pretty tight-lipped. The new game manual is going to be out at the end of August here, by the end of August. So basically within a month, we should have the new game manual. You can check back to this site or FTW site often to look for the manual. One thing about the REC is you do have to join it. The VEX people know this, so to become part of the REC, I should say, I believe it's $125 annually. I'm not 100% positive.
I don't recall the cost on it, but there is an association.
There is an association with this, but the good news is that gets you into their huge resource bank of, grant funding, everything. They periodically come out with grants for like rural areas or whoever that you can apply for. They give out money all the time. The best part is their structure. Okay, so to run VEX, run the RAD, a lot of these events, you need a huge structure, especially in the VEX world. So that part of what the REC does is provide that structure. You know, the event trainers, they give you all the software you need to run the events. They give you the volunteer software, how to get the right volunteers, the roles, all that. So it's well worth it. For the RAD, typically, if I'm running a RAD, if I have my own team, I can host an event and I can actually charge people like 25 bucks, a team 25 bucks to enter my event. Cool thing about that is I will get most of that money back into my own little account. So I can save that up and build that over time, and hopefully after a year or two, I'm going to have a good fund to help get my teams to go to events in the future. So it does cost a little bit of money, but tell you where this is heading, it's going big. This last year when we first started, it was definitely geared for the middle school, high school kids, basic piloting. Their plan is to go down to elementary and up to collegiate level. Okay, so obviously we're going to be talking about different levels of drones. Okay, different levels of events, geospatial applications, that's where it's all heading. Okay, so they have a huge plan going forward. One thing they said this year, and the beautiful thing about the RAD is, to quote Jim, or not Jim, John, our regional rep, he said, this is already a socially distance-friendly event. You can see by our competition we had last year, everybody's pretty well spread out. Teams typically consist of 2, maybe 3 kids, and they're all very spread out already. And the refs, you saw us in there, we were spread out. So it's a very socially distance-friendly event as it is. They fully intend on having this go live this year, all year. With that in mind, they are working on a backup plan for the virtual side. Okay, I don't know what that entails, but it is something they're thinking about. So either way, there's going to be some form of competitions available through the RAD this year. So definitely you'll have these links, check into the robotics. Depending on your school, you probably already have a VEX team. If you don't understand the REC, you get with them. They will definitely be able to guide you on the REC. That's kind of where I'm at with it. I'm a RAD person, but I don't really understand the REC totally. So I had to have Andrew, our VEX guy, really help me out on that. Okay, some more to come on that. Then a brand new, I'm not going to go into this because it's just really getting started. Okay. Some of you probably know who SkillsUSA are. I know a lot of schools, this is nationwide, state by state. What I like about SkillsUSA is how it was described to me. It's like the 4-H for career planning and pathways and educational pathways. And from what I've seen, that's pretty true. They have everything from weather to coding to drones. Drones now, they're just getting into drones. And much like the relationship between the REC and FTW, they look like for the drone side are developing a relationship with Pittsco Education here. So they are a supplier of the game pieces. What I liked about this program right off the bat, and I'm gonna send you these 2 manuals that I've gotten from, basically I'm in touch with our Minnesota State SkillsUSA rep, Jessa Doms. We've been meeting, we're forming an actual advisory group. So we're going to be getting heavily involved with these people. And what I like about this program is it's a kind of a cradle to grave skill development. And to give you an idea, I think one of our very minimal things we're going to work into this whole program is getting kids Part 107 by the time they're done with high school. So we would kind of be building that way as a kid starts with drones maybe in grade or middle school, we would be building towards, by the time they're in high school, turning 16, they'd be getting 107. Okay, so that's one of the big things we like about this. Another big thing is their game. Their game is, I mean, all of these games are going to be kind of the same to some extent because we're talking about the same type of drones. Obviously, the RAD is the Paramambo. If you look at their books, their drone is the Tello. Okay, so basically the same principles. Their game is slightly different. What I like about how they're going about their game is it's a lot of it you can build yourself, the game pieces, and it's designed that way. It seems to be quite a bit cheaper. And as far as the SkillsUSA stuff, obviously everything's aligned to academic standards when you're getting into that. So I kind of like where this is going. It's very, very new. I don't think, I mean, basically we're forming a committee right now to figure out what the Minnesota SkillsUSA drone competition is going to look like at this point. So obviously with the situation we're in now and this, not knowing how the school year is going to unfold, this is probably not, I'm guessing, not even going to become a thing until next fall. Okay, so very early stages. I'm just letting you know this is another option. It's obviously going to be a cheaper option. I'll send you both these links, these books, and you can look through and see. They're kind of focusing on a few different things, but I definitely, this shows a lot of promise, and I think it'll be easier for schools to get into. And that is all I got on the drone competitions. And I think we're right on time, aren't we? Oh, perfect.
Might even be a few minutes or no?
3 minutes to spare for a question or two.
So let's look at questions first. I don't see any questions right off the bat here, so why don't give me a few seconds to type any questions you may have. I want to bring up a couple things. One, Facebook sites. There are lots of Facebook groups that are not only dedicated to drones themselves, and they're specific to each individual type of drone. If you have a Mavic Pro, a Tello, whatever it is, there is a group out there on Facebook for it. The other thing is there is a group in, I'm a part of it, I'm not an admin or anything like that, but Educators Who Drone, or Drones in STEM Education, it's kind of the same group there. Great resources, always posting new videos, how-tos. In fact, the lady who runs that one actually runs a blog as well that has a lot of good there are plenty of resources out there to be able to kind of get up to speed, look what other people are doing, share resources. So there's some definite value in there. Let's see. SkillsUSA Teledrones, Mike, yes, that's what Tom said, is that SkillsUSA was really leaning towards the Tello, whereas the RAD looks at the Mambo. See, from Amber, do we see value in multi-GP racing competitions? Absolutely, I see value in that. As they're growing up, so if you do have a you know, FPV club, something like that, as they matriculate and go off to college, I don't know if any of you guys have heard, or any of you folks have heard, but there is a collegiate drone racing league. And in fact, just down the road in Grand Forks, North Dakota here, has been the last, I don't know if they held this year. I know they did one, possibly two, yeah, they've done two, drone racing competitions for collegiate drone racing. And I saw colleges there last year that was everywhere from Florida to Alaska had representatives there. And it's open registration. All you gotta do is have a member that's, you know, part of the team. So getting into that multi-GP, there's definitely some value there. The value on the maybe career side, I'd say is a little bit less, but not much less. Being able to control the drone without the adding modes and the GPS and all those other extra sensors that we tend to get on the commercial side has quite a bit of value, especially when you start talking about transmission and distribution of power. There's a big push for what we call sock pulling. So going out and using a drone to pull a line up onto the big towers that will then be used to pull the electrical line. And none of that's done autonomously at this point. You know, that's hand flying from folks on the ground. So getting used to the different views, to the spatial recognition and things like that involved, you know, the quickness with your hands, all of that definitely has some value. So
I don't know if they're still doing it, but Drone Racing League was doing a virtual simulator contest to where the better you got, you could actually earn your way into becoming a professional sponsored drone pilot.
Oh, nice. And Drone Racing League also has a free simulator too.
Yeah, it was a challenge.
That's on FPV flights, so that's not necessarily where our focus was today.
Yeah.
But absolutely, there's resources out there for the FPV side.
Yep.
Tiny loops for FPV drone racing are awesome. You can go multiple ways with it. They do have ready to fly or bind and fly type kits that are out there, like $100. Get you a small little drone about the size of the palm of your hand with a camera already integrated on it and a receiver. Generally on the education side, I'd say, you know, build one. You know, you can find some cheaper ones out there that you can pull apart and add in cameras and the antennas and transmitters and stuff like that. So you get a little more involved, a little more ownership with it, a little bit more than just the racing aspect. So getting into modifications, upgrading motors, upgrading and tuning the flight controller. There's some definite value in that as well. And frankly, it's a lot of fun. And of course, Mike, being inside, we can avoid the FAA. You know, anytime we want to avoid giant bureaucracies, we'll do that. That being said, the FAA is great. They're out there for safety and good for them, and good for us to a point too. But sometimes it is nice to be able to walk into a gym and not have to worry about all the extra regulations and authorizations involved.
Very much.
Well, let's see, James looks like they're starting a drone club this year, and I'm not sure which way to go for competitions. I think that's really going to depend on what type of assets you already have. If you've already got Paramambos, I mean, you might as well go towards the Rad. We kind of like the way the Rad is set up, and we haven't seen a lot on the SkillsUSA side.
Just to give you an idea on the Rad too, I forgot to mention, for the Worlds that they were going to hold back in April, they had 49 states represented and 9 foreign countries already. Yeah, that's only going to grow.
So, and especially if you're already into VEX, I mean, you got your foot in the door. So if there's already a VEX team at your school, I definitely lean towards the Rad. If there's nothing holding you one way or the other, then you're just gonna have to look a little deeper into it. I think Rad has a lot more potential just based on what VEX has been able to do.
Good structure.
Yeah, but that's more my opinion than anything there. So. Yeah, definitely. I like having them build and race too, Amber. Yeah, so James, if you do have a VEX team, then that's where I personally lean. So outside of that, is there any other questions? So if there's not any other questions, and I'll keep checking the screen here. I know maybe not everybody's gonna stay on for the kind of open forum virtual happy hour.